Thank you for your love, your constant support, and every generous donation that helps this mission grow. Your presence here means more than words can express. With gratitude and light, there are moments in life when everything around you seems to fall silent. The voices fade, the certainties disappear, and what remains is an almost suffocating silence. But that emptiness isn't random. It's a silent calling, an invisible preparation. It's not the end. It's the beginning of something only the chosen are capable of feeling. Life begins to show signs. Signs that don't come with rational explanations. You feel your body tired, your heart restless. Familiar places no longer bring the comfort they once did. It feels like nothing fits anymore. But that feeling isn't a mistake. It's the soul's push saying, it's time to change. Only those set apart for something greater can understand that urgency. When God begins to move someone toward the new, He first breaks down what no longer serves. And that hurts. Because change hurts. Growing requires tearing down old truths, and there's no manual for that. Only the strange certainty that continuing to live as before is no longer possible. That discomfort is the proof. You're on the edge of breakthrough. This content isn't about ready-made formulas or empty promises. It's a reflection, a spiritual mirror. If something inside you has been crying out for answers, maybe what's missing isn't more information, but courage to listen to what your spirit has been whispering for a long time. If you've come this far, it's because you're ready to face this transition. My name is George, and I'm here to guide you through this awakening process. Now, turn on the notification bell, follow the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And be ready. The signs have begun to reveal themselves, and only the chosen will remain until the end. There is a phase in the spiritual journey when the sound around you fades, and even surrounded by people, you feel alone. It's not sadness. It's not ordinary loneliness. It's as if something within you is preparing itself, withdrawing. The world feels distant. Words lose their weight, and the noise outside can no longer reach you. Many mistake this for emotional isolation or introversion. But the chosen ones know it's more than that. It's an inner calling, a withdrawal of the soul. A forced pause where the spirit begins to clear away noise and reconfigure what truly matters. And this phase isn't easy. It brings fear. But it also carries a strange peace that only those who live it can understand. In that silence, you begin to see more clearly who the people are that truly connect with you. Those who demand constant explanations drift away, and you begin to realize you no longer need to justify what you feel. The absence of outer noise creates space to hear your own voice more clearly. For the first time, you truly hear yourself. And what that voice says might be uncomfortable, because it reveals truths you've ignored for too long. It shows feelings you've suppressed. It brings to light wounds you've disguised with distractions. But it's in this silent soil that your essence begins to bloom. Social masks fall away. The roles you once played lose meaning, and the raw, real version of who you are emerges. Being in this silence is uncomfortable because it dismantles everything familiar. But it's also necessary, because without it, transformation cannot begin. This withdrawal is a kind of spiritual cave, the place where old versions die so that the new self can be formed. Those who try to avoid this stage lose themselves, attempting to maintain an image that no longer exists. Most people don't understand this process. Some will say you're distant. Others will say you've changed. And the truth is, you have changed because you decided to stop pretending. You stopped laughing when you wanted to cry. You stopped accepting invitations that drained your energy. You stopped showing up in places that only hurt you on the inside. You've stopped living for others and started living your truth. And as lonely as that may seem, it's on this path that the chosen are prepared. God doesn't train warriors amid noise. He shapes them in silence. He trains them in the cave. He refines them away from the crowds. Isolation is an altar where the old is sacrificed, so that the new may be born. So if you feel that silence surrounding you, don't run from it. Resist the temptation to distract yourself. Listen to what's being revealed in this time. It may be that this pause isn't just a moment in your life, but a preparation for the next level of your purpose. The chosen go through this before their mission is revealed. You are not becoming strange. You are not being forgotten. You are being set apart. The spiritual realm recognizes this, and those who manage to remain steadfast through this silence will come out with clarity, restored identity, and a renewed sense of direction. Silence is not rejection, it's repositioning. And when everything is quiet, that's when God begins to speak. When the discomfort can no longer be ignored, there comes a point in the journey when discomfort becomes unbearable. What you once tolerated now feels heavy. Empty words, meaningless promises, superficial relationships. Everything starts to irritate you in ways you can't explain. What once went unnoticed now screams inside you. It's the clear sign. You are awakening to the truth. That truth, however, doesn't come gently. It imposes itself, and no longer allows you to pretend. You begin to feel that living the same way is like betraying yourself. Accepting the old becomes a burden. Smiling where it hurts. Staying silent when you should speak. Continuing where it no longer makes sense. All of it becomes intolerable. You try to resist. You try to adapt once more. But the body doesn't cooperate. The soul reacts. It's as if something within you starts rejecting everything fake. You realize you've been living a life that no longer represents who you are. And then comes the conflict. Because change requires courage. Letting go of what's familiar, even when painful, brings fear. The problem is that pretending no longer works. The discomfort grows so strong that living as before becomes impossible. You start withdrawing from certain people, not out of anger, but exhaustion. You decline invitations without guilt. You go quiet without remorse. And all of this brings a liberation that, though lonely, is deeply freeing. Awakening doesn't come with a manual. It comes with disruption, a break between who you were and who you must become. Old dreams begin to feel small. Other people's goals stop guiding you. A desire arises to stop everything and start over, to throw away the old structures and build something truer, more aligned with who you've become. Those around you notice. Some criticize, others drift away, but that no longer shakes you like before, because now, for the first time, you're not trying to prove anything. You're simply being, and that choice comes with a cost, but also with a reward. Freedom. The freedom to no longer betray your soul to satisfy outside expectations. That discomfort is a compass. It points the way to your true purpose. The chosen feel it more intensely because they are called to live authentically. And living in truth requires surrender, but it also brings peace. A peace that doesn't depend on anything external, because it's born from alignment between who you are and how you live. So if everything is bothering you, if it feels like you're falling apart inside, know this: you're rebuilding. The old is collapsing to make room for the new, and this process, though painful, is a sign that your soul is alive, awakened, and ready for the next step. There comes a point when you no longer recognize yourself in your actions, your thoughts, or the places you used to be. It's as if you're living inside a character that no longer makes sense. What once felt comfortable now suffocates. There's a feeling that something within you is being dismantled, layer by layer. You try to force yourself to like the same things, keep the same habits, follow the same paths. But the energy simply doesn't respond anymore. It's as if your soul has decided to stop cooperating with the lie. It's no longer possible to maintain the routine if it lacks purpose. And that's frightening because the new hasn't arrived yet. Only the old is collapsing. That feeling of disconnection from your own story is common among the chosen. God begins to tear down everything that was built outside of his purpose, and that deconstruction can look like a crisis. You ask yourself if you're going crazy. But what's happening is the opposite. You're awakening to who you truly are. You begin to lose interest in goals that once seemed essential. Relationships that supported your emotional structure start dissolving. Not out of hurt, but out of misalignment. Your frequency has changed. You can no longer pretend. Everything that isn't true starts to hurt, to bother you, to drain you. And there's no way to force it anymore. At this point, it can feel like the world is falling apart. You might feel a deep emptiness, as if nothing makes sense. But that's when the rebuilding begins. Because when everything false falls away, only what's real remains. And that's what this phase is about. Letting the old crumble, so the new can have space to be born. The pain of this transition is lonely, but necessary. Most people won't understand what's happening. Many will say you're acting strange, unstable, even ungrateful. But inside you there's a flame lit. A silent strength that keeps moving you forward, even when fear tries to paralyze you. That's a sign of calling, of rebirth. You start making different choices, more conscious ones. You begin saying no to everything that doesn't align with your essence. You break cycles, quiet the noise, step out of roles that no longer represent your soul. And although it hurts, there's relief. Because finally you stop hurting yourself just to fit where you never belonged. There's no manual for this phase, only the certainty that it's necessary. The chosen are pruned before they bear fruit. The dismantling of the old version is part of the plan. It's not about losing who you were, but making room for who you were born to be. It's difficult, but sacred. And if you're feeling this, remain. You're on the right path. When what was comfortable begins to suffocate you. One of the deepest signs of the final phase of awakening is the feeling of suffocation inside your own life. Suddenly, what once made you feel good now consumes you. You look around and everything feels tight. Conversations, commitments, environments. Nothing fits anymore. And you feel that if you stay, you'll cease to exist. It's not drama, it's evolution. Your soul is growing, and the old structure can no longer hold what's being birthed inside you. It's like clothing that no longer fits. You may try to keep wearing it, but the discomfort will be constant. Your body, mind, and spirit already know something needs to change. You start getting irritated by small things, attitudes, words, expectations. Not because you've become too sensitive, but because all of it represents versions of yourself that no longer define you. What you once tolerated now feels heavy. What used to be part of your routine now feels like a prison, and that leads you to question everything. What am I doing here? Why am I still in this relationship? Why do I keep working at this job? Why do I keep trying to fit where I was never welcome? These questions come up strongly, and no matter how much you try to ignore them, they don't go away. They're the sign that your soul refuses to keep living on autopilot. This suffocation isn't punishment, it's propulsion. It didn't come to paralyze you, but to push you. When everything inside you feels tight, it's because you're being moved to the next level. And that movement requires courage, because it means leaving behind not only what is safe, but also what limits you. You realize you're more irritable, introspective, selective. That's not regression. It's spiritual fine-tuning. God is adjusting your perception so you can see clearly what needs to be released. And little by little, you begin to move. Quietly, without fuss, but with certainty. The people around you may not understand. Some will judge, criticize, or distance themselves. But you're no longer for sale. The price of living outside your purpose is far too high, and you've paid it for too long. Now you choose to breathe freely, to stay where truth lives, to remain where there's room to grow. This phase isn't easy. It comes with confusion, fear, and insecurity, but also with hope. Because deep down you know you can't go back. You've grown too much to fit where you were, and now you need to clear the way for your new self to be born, with all the space it needs to become everything God has called you to be. There comes a moment in the life of the chosen when the constant yes begins to sicken the soul. You give, you adapt, you strive to please, until you realize you're fading away. The body grows tired, the heart complains, and the mind screams for silence. And that's when the no begins to be born. At first, you hesitate. You still feel that old guilt knocking at the door. After all, for so long you believed you had to say yes to everything, to be accepted, to avoid hurting others, to not seem selfish. But slowly you begin to understand. Saying no is also love, especially self-love. This no doesn't come from rebellion. It comes from clarity, from the awareness that your energy is limited, and you need to choose where to place it more responsibly. From the understanding that not every invitation is connection, not every conversation is exchange, not every presence is a blessing. And that's okay. You no longer have time for what distances you from who you are. You start stepping away from draining environments, from people who demand too much, from situations that no longer make sense. And when someone asks you for an explanation, you realize you don't need to justify yourself. Those who truly know you will understand. Those who are offended by your boundaries never respected your essence. This awakening is quiet but powerful. You learn to protect your peace. You start saying no to empty commitments, to promises that don't nourish you, to relationships that weaken you. And through that, you begin saying yes to yourself. Yes to your mental health, to your authenticity, to the life you truly want to live. And though it may seem simple, this shift is one of the greatest liberations the chosen experience. Because behind every no spoken with awareness, there's a courageous choice, the decision to live more truthfully. And those who live in truth no longer bend under pressure or force themselves to fit. Some people will notice your change, some will distance themselves, others will try to pull you back to your old version. But you already know, the price of living to please others is far too high, and you're no longer willing to pay with your own soul. Saying no is a sign of spiritual maturity. It's understanding that you weren't meant to be accepted by everyone. You were meant to fulfill a purpose, and that requires focus. It requires presence. It requires knowing where to place your attention, your energy, your presence. Now you choose with more awareness, and that changes everything. This no isn't rejection of others. It's acceptance of yourself. It's not arrogance. It's freedom. It's not distance. It's protection. When no becomes an act of care rather than defense, you realize you finally stop betraying your own truth, and that's a victory few ever achieve. When criticism no longer controls you, for a long time, other people's opinions shaped your choices. A single comment could paralyze you. A single criticism could make you doubt everything. You lived trying to please, trying to be accepted, seeking validation from eyes that never truly saw you. But the chosen ones were never meant to live in the shadow of opinions. Then comes the moment when you awaken. And in that awakening, you begin to see yourself differently. You begin to understand that what others think doesn't define who you are. You begin to realize that living to please everyone is a prison disguised as kindness. And then the change happens. You still hear the criticisms, but they don't penetrate like before. You filter them, analyze them, consider what makes sense, and release the rest. Because now you have discernment, you have roots, you have presence. You understand that not every criticism is born of malice, but also that not every opinion deserves space within you. This detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you free. You stop reacting impulsively, stop justifying everything, stop trying to convince those who have already decided not to understand you. That saves energy, time, and peace, and little by little, you strengthen from within. The external noise no longer pulls you out of your center. The criticism that used to wound you now teaches you. You learn to distinguish between feedback and projection. You recognize when someone is speaking from their own pain, envy, or limitation. And when that happens, you don't feel attacked. You feel compassion, and you move on. This is a clear sign of spiritual advancement. The chosen go through a process of emotional armor, not to shut themselves off from the world, but to no longer lose themselves in it. Because those who walk in purpose no longer live to prove anything. They simply live with truth, courage, and focus. You stop begging for approval. You stop adjusting yourself to please invisible audiences. And when you realize that you don't need to be understood to continue, you are set free. Other people's opinions don't disappear, but they lose the power to guide you. Now you're guided by your conscience, by your calling, by God. For a long time you lived with a knot in your chest, an inner mess that was hard to explain. Confused thoughts, conflicting emotions, a feeling of being lost inside yourself. It was as if the world outside was functioning normally, but inside you, everything was falling apart. You tried to ignore it, distract yourself, avoid it, but nothing worked. The chaos seemed endless. Every attempt to reorganize yourself only brought more confusion. You questioned yourself all the time. What's happening to me? Why does everything affect me this way? But now, for the first time, that chaos has started to feel different. It still exists, but it's less frightening, less suffocating. Because you've started to understand. You realize that the chaos isn't there to destroy you. It's reshaping you. It's breaking down what no longer serves you. It's stripping away the layers you carried out of obligation, fear, or habit. And in the place of that old structure, something more genuine begins to emerge. Something more you. It's as if the chaos is pushing you inward, to face what you've been avoiding, to feel what you've always tried to hide, to revisit choices, to heal wounds, to release old weight. It's not a beautiful process. It's uncomfortable, lonely, slow, but it's necessary. The chaos that once made you desperate now reveals patterns. It shows cycles. It exposes internal lies. It brings to light the things you need to confront in order to grow. And the more you accept walking through this process, instead of running from it, the more clarity begins to appear. Small understandings emerge in the middle of the confusion, and they bring peace. You stop fighting the chaos. You begin walking with it. You learn to breathe within the mess. You learn to listen to yourself. And most importantly, you learn to trust that all of this is leading you towards something greater. You realize you're not broken. You're being rebuilt. That is one of the strongest signs that you're in the final phase of transformation. Because true rebirth happens within chaos, not outside it. Those who are chosen are not afraid of inner confusion. They face it with courage. And that's why they emerge from it stronger, more aware, more whole. If you're at that point now, breathe. Honor the process. Accept not having all the answers. Allow yourself to feel. The chaos is only the stage of transition, and once it has done its work, everything will make sense. You won't be the same, and that's exactly what needs to happen. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you already understands that this journey is not ordinary. It's not about fitting in. It's about breaking free. It's about listening to the calling the world doesn't understand, but your soul recognizes. And that takes courage. Every sign you've experienced, the silence, the discomfort, the confusion, the chaos, wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something much greater. It was the process of deconstructing versions of yourself that no longer represented who you are. And even without guarantees, you kept going. Even without strength, you didn't stop. Because deep down, you knew you're being prepared. The awakening of the chosen isn't beautiful in the beginning. It's messy, lonely, and often painful. But it's real. And what's real has weight, value, and purpose. You're not weak for feeling so deeply. You're strong for continuing, even when everything inside and around you seemed to push you backward. Now that everything inside you is being reorganized, something new begins to rise. Not a perfect version, but a true one. A version that no longer needs to hide. A version that honors your essence. And I want to invite you to leave a comment here. Which of these signs have you felt the most? Share your experience. Your pain might be the strength someone else needs to keep going. Your story might touch someone who's exactly where you once were. And that's part of the mission of the chosen, to be light in the middle of transition.